You know that little pile of envelopes that builds up by the kettle every April? One from the pension people, one from the tax office, one from the council, maybe one from the bank. You mean to sit down with them after lunch, then after the weekend, then after the grandkids have gone home. And before you know it, the smallest bits of paper in the house are quietly deciding the biggest bits of your income. If you like having someone calmly walk through these things with you, do subscribe and keep this channel nearby for the next time an official envelope lands on the mat. Because this time of year, there are 7 letters many retirees ignore, and each one can change what you keep, what you owe, or what help you miss. The central theme today is very simple. In retirement, the danger is rarely the letter itself. The danger is assuming it says nothing you need to act on. Once you see these spring letters for what they really are, you stop treating them as paperwork and start treating them as protection. The first letter is the state pension uprating letter, the one many people glance at for 10 seconds, smile at, and then put aside. This is the note that tells you your new weekly amount from April, and for 2026, the full new state pension rose to £241.30 a week, while the full basic state pension rose to £184.90. The mistake is thinking it is only good news and nothing more. But a higher state pension can affect tax, can alter how another pension is taxed, and can change what other support you may or may not get. The phrase to remember is this: new weekly rate, new yearly total. That one thought keeps you from sleepwalking into problems later in the year. What matters is not just the rise itself, but what the rise touches next, because retirement income works like a row of dominoes. When one figure moves, another often moves behind it. And that is why the uprating letter deserves a proper read, a date on the calendar, and a place in one folder. Write down your old amount, your new amount, and what that means over a full year, not just per week, because weekly numbers can look small, while yearly effects are much larger. If this sort of plain English checking helps you feel steadier, that is a good reason to subscribe, so these envelopes stop feeling bigger than they are. The second letter is the HMRC tax code notice, and this is where a lot of decent, careful people come unstuck without realizing it. Margaret, who is 72 and widowed, had her state pension go up, a small teacher's pension paid monthly, and a little bit of savings interest on top. She opened the tax code notice, saw a lot of numbers and letters, thought it looked official enough, and told herself they must know what they are doing. 6 months later, she still could not work out why her private pension felt thinner, and the answer had been sitting in that first spring envelope all along. HMRC often changes a tax code when income changes, and that includes a change in your weekly state pension, extra pension income, or even taxable savings interest. The relief phrase here is one you can use on the phone or write in a note. Please explain what income you have included in this code and whether any figure is estimated. That single question slows everything down and brings the conversation back to facts, not guesswork, and in retirement, that can save a great deal of muddle. If you would find it useful to have a quiet guide beside you for letters like that, subscribe and let this channel be your second pair of eyes. The third letter is the simple assessment tax bill, and many older people ignore it because it does not arrive in the way they expect tax to arrive. If your state pension is your only income and it pushes you over your personal allowance, or if tax cannot be collected neatly through another pension, HMRC may send this letter. Some people think it looks odd and must be a scam. Others assume it is one of those things that can wait until summer. Neither is a safe habit. A real tax letter can still contain a wrong figure, but it does not stop being important just because it is confusing. The phrase to keep in your pocket here is this: I think this calculation may be wrong, so please review it within the correction window. That matters because if the information in the letter is wrong, you are expected to challenge it promptly, and for many people that means acting within 60 days. Do not leave it unopened beside the fruit bowl, and do not pay it blindly either. Check the numbers against your pensions, your bank interest, and anything else taxable. And if you want more of these calm little warnings before the problem gets expensive, you might like to subscribe and keep close to the channel. The fourth letter is the P60 from your pension provider, the one that often arrives just when everyone is tired of paperwork and wants the nicer weather instead. A lot of retirees assume the P60 only matters if they are still working, but if you have a workplace pension or private pension, it is one of the cleanest records you have. It shows what was paid and what tax was taken during the tax year, and that makes it your best tool for checking whether HMRC's picture of you matches real life. If the tax office thinks one thing and your P60 shows another, the error does not fix itself by being ignored. The practical phrase here is simple. Does this P60 match my tax code and the money that actually reached my bank? That is the sort of question that turns a vague worry into a useful check, especially if you have two pensions, or started one partway through a year, or stopped one. Many people in later life feel a bit nervous around official numbers, but a P60 is not there to frighten you. It is there to help you compare one story against another. If you would like more help turning official jargon into everyday checks, subscribe and come back whenever the post starts getting serious again. The fifth letter is not always dramatic, which is exactly why it gets missed. It is the annual interest summary from your bank or building society. You may think, well, it is only savings interest and I have already paid my dues all my life. But savings interest can affect your tax if it goes over the allowance that applies to you. For years, some people barely earned anything on cash savings. Then rates rose and those old assumptions stopped being safe, especially for people with several accounts scattered around. It is very easy to underestimate small amounts from 3 or 4 places, and then be surprised when HMRC has noticed before you have. The phrase to remember is this: how much interest was taxable, not just how much interest was paid. That small change in wording matters because people often mix up tax-free products, ordinary savings, and what counts once all the pieces are added together. This is another example of the central theme. It is not the grand financial decision that catches many retirees out. It is the quiet spring summary nobody bothers to total up properly. If you know someone who likes their money simple, safe, and understandable, they may find a regular subscription here genuinely useful rather than noisy. The sixth letter is the local council bill, and every spring it lands with that familiar thud that says a new year has started whether you are ready or not. Many pensioners look at it, wince, and then pay it the same way as last year without stopping to ask whether they still qualify for help. But low income in retirement can open doors people do not expect, especially if pension credit might apply, or if a council tax reduction through the local council has never been checked. Owning your home does not automatically mean you are too comfortable for support, and modest savings do not always rule you out either. Derek, who is 68, had paid council tax without question since the day he moved in, because in his mind help was for other people. After his wife died, his income changed, his confidence dropped, and his habits stayed the same. He kept paying the full bill because that felt normal, even though normal had changed. When his daughter finally helped him look, it turned out he might qualify for support and should have checked pension credit at the same time because one form of help can unlock another. The phrase I want you to remember is this: please check pension credit and council tax reduction together, not one without the other. That matters because pension credit can be worth more than people realize, and even a small award can unlock other help with council tax, heating, housing costs, and sometimes a free TV license if you qualify by age. It can also be backdated in some cases, but not forever, which means delay has a price, and that price is often paid by the quietest people who least deserve it. So when that spring council letter arrives, do not just ask what you owe, ask what help has become possible since last year, because retirement changes and the rules around you keep moving too. If this channel helps you ask better questions at the right moment, subscribe and let it sit there like a sensible neighbor you can turn to. The seventh letter is newer for some households and catches people off guard because it feels backwards. It is the notice that a winter payment may be taken back through tax. A lot of people quite reasonably think a winter payment is help with heating, end of story. But for some households with income above the set threshold, HMRC may recover it through the tax system. That can mean a changed tax code from April, smaller deductions spread across the year, or inclusion on a tax return if you already do one. So, the surprise is not always the payment arriving. Sometimes the surprise is the quiet spring adjustment that follows. The phrase here is this: is this a payment, a discount, or a tax recovery? And where exactly will it show up? That question protects you from a very common trap, which is mixing up DWP money, HMRC deductions, and energy help such as the warm home discount, which follows different rules. When people feel tired of forms, They often blend everything together and miss the point. But each scheme has its own lane, and each letter tells you which lane you are in. If you value this kind of steady untangling, you might want to subscribe, because later life is much easier when the post stops speaking in riddles. Now step back and look at the pattern. None of these letters is dramatic in the moment. None arrives with a trumpet. Most look dull, official, and easy to delay. Yet together they control your tax, your pension, your council bill, your heating support, and your sense of whether your money still makes sense. That is why the central theme matters so much. In retirement, little pieces of paper can either guard your income or quietly leak it away. The people who stay safest are not always the cleverest. They are often just the ones who have a simple routine and stick to it every spring. So let me give you a very practical ritual, because good habits beat good intentions nearly every time. Pick one afternoon in April or early May, put the kettle on, clear the table, and gather every pension, tax, bank, energy, and council letter in one place before you open anything. Use one plain sheet of paper and make 4 boxes in your own handwriting. New income, tax changes, bills and support, and phone calls or questions. That one page becomes your command center, and it stops you wandering from envelope to envelope without ever deciding what actually needs doing. In the new income box, write any rise in state pension, any private pension change, and any interest paid by your savings. In the tax changes box, write any new tax code, any mention of a simple assessment, and anything that says HMRC has estimated or adjusted a figure. In the bills and support box, write council tax, pension credit, heating help, and anything else that changes what leaves your account each month. Then, in the phone calls box, write the exact question you need answered, because a written question is far better than a worried feeling. If you live with a spouse or partner, do this together, because one letter may affect both of you, even if only one name is on the page. If you live alone, consider telling one trusted person where your spring folder is kept, not because you are helpless, but because backup is wisdom, not weakness. And if while you are listening, you can picture a brother, a sister, a neighbor, or an older friend who lets these envelopes pile up untouched, send them this video as a quiet kindness. Sometimes sharing one useful explanation is far more helpful than asking someone, yet again, whether they are sure they have it all in hand. There is also something else worth saying, and I mean this warmly. Many people over 55 feel embarrassed when tax or pension letters become hard to follow. Please do not be. The language is often cramped, the timing is awkward, and the system expects you to join up several moving parts at once. Feeling unsure does not mean you are careless. It means the paperwork is doing what paperwork often does, which is hide the important thing inside too many formal words. Your job is not to admire the wording. Your job is to pull out the one fact that changes your money. And when you do that, something very encouraging happens. The letters stop feeling like threats and start feeling like signals. A signal can be acted on, a signal can be checked, a signal can be written down, queried, corrected, and filed. That is the dignity I want for you in retirement, not perfect mastery of every rule, but a calm, workable grip on the handful of letters that matter most. You do not need to become an expert in the whole system, you only need a way of not being caught asleep by the parts that touch your life. Think of these spring letters like the small lights on a car dashboard. One light on its own may not mean disaster, but it is there for a reason, and the wise driver does not cover it with a shopping receipt and hope for the best. They pause, they look, they check what the signal means, and they deal with it before a minor issue turns into a much more expensive one down the road. Retirement money is very much the same. Tiny warnings noticed early keep the whole journey smoother and quieter. So when the post comes through next spring, do not see a nuisance. See a set of instruments telling you how your financial life is running. Open the letters, note the change, ask the plain question, and keep the ones that matter in one safe place. That is how ordinary people protect a lifetime of work. Not with drama and not with guesswork, but with calm attention at the right moment. And that calm attention, more than anything else, is what helps your state pension work for you instead of against you.